This is one of those points in the journey where I'm speaking from the dark. I found a lot of help in those, and I've come to a point where I value them immensely, because I've had a few points on the journey where everything has been very impossible sometimes, extremely dark, extremely challenging and hard, and I haven't really seen the silver lining from where I'm standing. And then I've been sharing some of what I feel as I go through it, and then feel better probably every time I feel better. But as time goes on, I'm able to balance what I think and get more clarity as I get the things out that is trying to, I don't know, mess things up. And when they get out, I'm able to get new things in. When I get those new things in, I'm able to think new solutions. I do new things. I get results. And voila, I'm on the other side. Like clockwork every single time. The month of May has been very eventful. I would say actually it started in April. But there has been a lot. And I did this value test earlier today. Had me think a little bit. I don't remember who made this, but yes, John F. DeMartini, the value determination process. And in a practical way, it takes you through what is important to you right now. Like, not what you want, but what is important to you right now. What are you doing right now? What are your values right now? To me, it was hard to take that test, because I think many people who take those kind of tests try to figure out who they are and what they want, so that they can get started on some journey towards where they want to go. In my case, that is hard because I've felt like I've been where I'm supposed to be for a long time. And I think it actually said so on the thing itself. There was a beautiful quote. It said, "The challenges is on the way, they're not in the way." And I agree, because there are many challenges, and they will continue to come, and they will probably just continue to increase in power, I guess. They will become increasingly more challenging as you go. And many of the values in that I found that it was really important to me was knowledge, wisdom, legacy, family, practical tools to have the experiences that enriches life. You know, not just for me, but the ones around me, and those, especially my family. Because I've seen a lot of fucking things on this journey. A lot of things. The reason I have to make this video now is because today I was silent almost throughout the entire day. Whenever I spoke, the person I spoke to, or spoke with, had a conversation with, was between the age of 3 and 8. 3, 6, 7, and 8. And they had more context, more value than 30 and 50 plus. How is that possible? It's not really the point of this video, but it goes into the point that I'm trying to get out. Because the things that has been happening the last month, maybe 2 months, has been very much rooted in non-awareness. And lack of insight to some degree. And who knows? Actually, I'm not gonna, not even who knows. Much of it has probably been my lack of insight. And I guess that's also what really hits deeper. Because the events that took place was in a small group of people, of which some of them was family. Soul family. After years on the journey together. And what was really shocking to me was that you can have so many experiences, talks, insights, revelations, so many things that happens during that relationship that strengthens the bond immensely between two people. And then you come to a place where a seemingly non-important event took place. And that minor difficulty was all it took to shift everything on its head. I'm still trying to get to a logical conclusion as to how it could shift so drastically based on what happened, based on the context. Depending on when I'm saying this, when I'm seeing this in the future, based on who is seeing this, the context is that we had a very tight-knit group of people trying to be a team, of which a few of them had a role that they had put on themselves. One of them in particular took on a leadership role when they were not a leader. They said they were, a lot. But in actuality, they didn't really lead by example. It was very interesting to behold because I have video evidence, documented conversations that goes into process of what we were creating. And to be specific, what we were creating was the SAGA program. Now, I've been doing the SAGA program for a long time, and it's been very intuitive. It's been like a healing session or something. It's been very much up to the case by case. So every journey has been very unique, but it has been following the same evolutions, I guess. The person who was taking it upon himself to change the entire structure of SAGA and injecting himself as the mentor of SAGA had not done SAGA. It didn't even last 2 weeks. I'm a very see it, hear it, experience it, and then learn kind of person. And I figured for him to grow to a point where we could be self-driven and sovereign in what we were doing, where I could focus on the level that I had reached, you know, based on the people that I was talking to, and not having to help all levels at the same time. And I'm talking about FML 1, 2, and 3 in this case. FML 1 was the people who really needed help. It took a lot of energy, and I saw that if he could take on that role, if he could grow into that role, and it would take a lot of pressure off the shoulders of everyone else. It would be a lot more flow in how everything operated. And I'm trying to see how I could see it back then, where he was just taking on this position of doing all that stuff, becoming the mentor of something that he really didn't have experience in, and going with that. And everything that happened after, it's just, I'm trying to still find the logic. But after a while, he kind of abandoned that whole project and wanted to get money. So he went on these different paths to find the best, easiest way to do so. He met another person, and that person was making money, so he went with him. And I spoke with him a few days ago, the other person, who said that it came to a point where where they were kind of cooperating, but then, you know, the main person of this story didn't see his way of making money as something that he could really relate to, so he just abandoned it, and he became suicidal. Very long story short, but he was all of a sudden sitting there moping in a couch in Tønsberg, and I figured he learned. It was like a rite of passage, right? He had something that he believed in. Something that gave him meaning. Something that he said that he would die for. The Legacy Forge. He saw that this was so important for the future that he was creating, for the kids that he wanted but didn't want to bring into the world until he had kind of created that future. So we talked. It was like we had this ship. And I told him the ship is not going to leave you, but, you know, if you jump ship, how many times are we going to toss out the floating device for you? He had done this before, so this time, to put the analogy into a visual, he had jumped ship, he had received the floating device, but he received an arrow to the knee because, dude, don't leave your team behind, you know? He came back up and he was like, fuck, yeah, I learned. And then we had this small inconvenience, a conversation within the team, where some people didn't, well, to be honest, all of the people in that team didn't know how the team worked, and we hadn't figured out the structure, we hadn't defined the roles, we hadn't done anything. It was very, very much a free-for-all, basically. And during this, I was focusing on what I was supposed to focus on. I was focusing on the core, I was focusing on my network, the people that I have been reaching out to and talking to, and seeing what was happening in those conversations, it gave me very much of a boost, because I saw that, fuck yeah, I can focus on this and know that everything else will be taken care of because they're self-driven. Only one person basically saw what I was doing, and that person was seen as a weakness from the others. And the person who was supposed to run the entire communication of the team, the HR, I guess, wasn't even in the meeting that made this happen. So we were called in for an extraordinary general meeting on a Saturday where I had my kids, and the rule was we do not work in weekends. We respect the fuck out of that, and especially when we have the kids. We were kind of perplexed as to why we were supposed to be on this meeting. In that meeting, the problem that they had found, and this was two people in general, was that we were helping someone who deserved punishment. In my mind, I was thinking about who really needed punishment if that was how easy it was to punish someone. Because, you know, abandoning your team in the middle of a fight, that deserves some discipline. And I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in lashing out to other people or punishing them. I believe in making them see what they did, feel that, accept it, and become better in the future. At least that's how I learned after spending a lot of time alone, being punished for things that I did. But they didn't have that experience. Their life had been very much the contrast of that, of facing the music, as it were. So they wanted us to punish this person, and when we didn't want to do that, and we basically said that no, we're not going to do that, we left the meeting and a vacuum occurred in the team. For a long time, it was silence. For a very long time, everyone just retreated to themselves, and who knows what was spoken in closed off rooms in different groups. I know that in my group, if one was to see it like that, we talked about how this was just not a thing that should happen at all, given the manifesto, given what we work for, given the vision, given the people that were supposed to be aware, especially in terms of energy and all these things. I don't know what was talked about in the other groups. I've talked to the one person who was kind of the bridge between, but there's a mask there as well, so I had no idea. And then came the day where I was supposed to drive a car to Oslo, which is quite a distance from here, and in a situation where I didn't have anything, and the team knew this. Everyone knew this. So I created the opportunities as I went along. Kind of as a, this is what's possible, guys. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we're supposed to do, not fucking bicker over things that doesn't have any meaning. I was kind of hoping that it was gonna be one of those events that made them reach out because they saw. Instead, I had a call while driving where I was told that there was a very strong personality in the group and that there was a big shadow. And that someone was fearing my reaction. I jumped the gun a little bit there because it turned out that it was my strong personality, it was my shadow. And it was my reaction that was being feared. So I said, okay, well, we have to talk about that. after having asked for specifics, because before I asked, it was no mention that it was me. I had to kind of force that truth to come out. So I said, specifically, whose shadow? Whose personality? To which the response was simply, yours, bro. I was like, all right, we have to talk about this, of course. Let's do that when I'm done with the adventure. And I call it an adventure, and I'm not sure if they understand this, but adventures doesn't have to be all rainbows and unicorn farts. It can also be something that is like facing a dragon. And I was literally doing this to face a dragon. But we hung up after agreeing that we were going to talk. And it didn't take long until I received a text message saying that he was retreating. He had to pull out from the Legacy Forge because the energy was just too big. Or the energy was just too painful, too hard to deal with. I was kind of shocked, but I could see it. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, if you didn't create that situation, then we wouldn't have that energy to deal with at all. But I didn't say anything. I reacted with a heart on the message. And then I figured I'm going to just deal with this when I have time, space, and energy to do so. If he wants to leave the Legacy Forge, that is completely fine. Go ahead. Shortly after, I received another text from the other person, the one who wanted us to attack and punish the person who had misspoken in the conversation. Again, I figured, all right, I'm not going to force anything here. I'm not going to try to salvage it. I'm not going to try to do anything because it's not my place. I'm tired. If they don't see, they don't see, and I'm not strong enough right now to carry them up to that level of understanding. Because in my experience, having done so for many months, I was tired of doing it. You know, I picked up one of these people at the train station, the 25th of December, and I opened my house to him, and I gave him my food. He had nothing, no money, no nothing. And I gave him an office, I gave him everything that he needed, a bed to sleep in. He smoked my weed. We sat by the fire. We had conversations. We went on adventures. We did a lot of things. A lot of things. And all the while he was here, he came in almost daily saying that he had to pick himself up by meditating for hours every day. Always, always looking for traumas to fix and things to deal with and pain bodies and you name it. Shadows that had to be eradicated. Dragons and multidimensional aspects of themselves that had to be integrated. It was like, bro, you just learned those words. You're not in a position to talk about them like that. Although I can see your process because I see you. He was always looking for that next level of spiritual awareness or the next hack or the next thing to follow or the next spiritual modality to practice, whatever it was. In this case, it was Kundalini Yoga because that was the next trend. And they did that. They had a retreat because while he was here, he also helped the other team member with her website, which was supposed to be a partnership between the Legacy Forge and her. And we were supposed to have the ceremony together. But one day I just received word that he had received money from her to do some work on her website. I was like, all right, good for you. I think you undersold yourself, but good for you. So we received money to create these ceremonies on her website that was supposed to be promoted by the Legacy Forge. By this time, we had no agreement, no nothing, because, you know, there was trust involved from one side at least. And they had grown to work a lot together, probably get to know each other a lot. They had Kundalini sessions. I had 2 of them myself. And then when all these things happened, when they just pulled out, didn't take a long time. Didn't take many days until he declared on Facebook that he was now working for her. And they were doing these things, these ceremonies, these retreats, and they held the retreat that we initially started to plan together as a partnership, but they did that alone, of course. All the while we were trying to fix the vacuum that they had created and make up for the months of time that was basically just thrown out. It was almost like 5 months was just flushed down the toilet. And in November, I had this insight that was like, fuck yeah, finally I can just focus on this now. Because we entered Exalted Hammer in November, I was following the seasons. And throughout the entire freaking thing, from November to March, he was here, or I was there, or we were working, and nothing was happening. But everything has shifted. All of a sudden, we had a new branch in the Legacy Forge called Legacy Digital, and we were doing all these different things and focusing on selling website development packages for other people and spiritual influencers and you name it. I was derouted as fuck because I figured, you know what? Maybe this is the answer. Maybe we should just focus on that, get the cash flow in, and then we can focus on the things that requires more effort. Well, in reality, it didn't require more effort. It was just a focus on doing the things that we had to do. Mainly me doing the things that I knew I had to do based on the experience that I had after doing this for 10 years. But I figured it's going to pay out. It's the knowing, right? And so I went in with that knowing, and when they pulled out, I was like, oh. Well, there was clarity, a lot of it. It was for the better that it happened at this point and not later, because if it happened later, I might have lost it all. This time I just lost almost all. But then again, I haven't. I'm still in a position to fix it. But it is like accepting all that as having happened. And then going in with a new clarity of going ahead and doing the things that you have to do to get the results that you want so that you can get to where you want to go. It is that simple. For me right now, it's just money. I'm saying just money because money in actuality is just the whole symbolism of appreciation for value of a service or something. It's just value. If you have value, you can convert it to money. And I struggled for a long time seeing my own value. And when these things happen, of course, you're left doubting your value. So you have to go back a little bit and then go and build yourself up again. And I was just done with it. I was so freaking tired of it. But then I figured, you know what? I'm going to just go for it. I'm going to create what I know I had to create to get to where I want to go. So I put together a video. At this point, I had seen so many hours of footage from the journey that I had with this guy. This person who I saw as a brother, where he said that this concept, what Tor is showing me, is kind of genius. It's like a ladder game when you have gone through FML 1, 2, and 3, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that is the only testimonial that I've found where he actually accredits anyone but himself for getting to where he wants to go. But at the same time, you know, after everything that's happened, I feel like it's okay to use that as a testimonial, as social proof to what is actually possible, and then add to that to say what the process is like, and using that as a marketing tool to actually fix the problems that he fucking created. I'm not going to say that he created all the problems either. That's a stupid thing. But to get to the other side of the threshold that has been there since November, going off with a boom, basically. Because it's one thing to say that you're awesome at something, which some people are very, 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 very used to do, and saying that I am an expert in this, I am a metaphysical advisor in that. Metaphysical manifester, was that it? Or visionary, metaphysical visionary manifester? I'm not sure. He gave himself a title. So it's something else to say that yourself. It's something else to have someone else say that, and then also having the ability to prove the entire journey from start to finish as proof. Because if you can't prove anything today, who the fuck are you to say anything, basically? Yeah, you can be yourself. You can be the embodied version of your higher self. You can do all these things, and you can be in power. But in our reality, we don't work alone, you know? Although we've been conditioned to think that everything should be done alone, it doesn't work. I know this after having been on this journey for a long time, for myself at least. But it is with a like-minded tribe that you not only find yourself and become whole, because you don't have to worry about everything that is not your domain, but you get people to create with. Just remembered his Instagram handle. So we created together, and this was during one of those creations, because he was actually literally talking to one of my friends who has been on this journey for a long time himself, ever since 2020. So they were talking together, showing that there was some life other than what I say on the videos, on the YouTube channel, everywhere. And I figured I'm going to use that. Created the video. I was pretty happy about it. People said that, holy shit, this is next level. Congratulations. This is really next level. But for me, it was just a attempt to get his attention. To see, are you able to see what I see? I posted it on Facebook, and I wrote 2 sentences. Do you see it? And do you feel it? A few days went by, and people came back with feedback, and I saw that this was a good video. And then he responded. I wish you would have come to me before you used me in a video. I was like, whoa. If I had used 15 seconds more of that clip, I would have had you on the camera saying that, thank you for recording that. You know, when you were seeing the same thing as I was. But when he said that, I figured, wow, okay. So I sent a message, 1 single word in Messenger. Talk. And I received a interesting message or response. I'm not interesting to talk to you. I'm not interested in talking with you. And it's all rooted in energy. I don't want to be associated with the Legacy Forge in any way, shape, or form, and I want you to remove me from any video and not use me as a way of promoting yourself. I hope you can respect this. Namaste emoji. If I'm not wrong, and do not quote me on this, but I think that namaste means I see the light in you. And I hope you see the light in me, or something. She just gave the whole fucking message a whoa. So I didn't know how to react. I just asked a few questions. Do you remember when I opened my house to you? Do you remember when I picked you up the day after Christmas and introduced you to my family? Do you remember when I was there for you when you felt like you had no one? Do you remember the adventures we were on? And then lastly, I'm happy that you found the love of your life because I opened my network. Happy for you guys. Because I left that part of their story. They moved in together. Just a few weeks after, I was told from someone else that they were engaged. I was even told from someone else, again, that he told him that he might have become a father. He was there. He might become a dad. It was just so much, you know. All this because he was in the Legacy Forge. All this because his timeline merged with the Legacy Forge. And he received the frequency elevation and off he was. And then out he was. I never received a response to those messages. And I'm not sure how it's going to look in the future, but that was a rude awakening, and I've been left with the whole trying to integrate the shock, basically. Just, you know, it's a lesson. It's a lesson on the journey where you don't really know anyone. Ever, it seems like, period. But it's all for the better. I would rather have real people around me, you know, who was able to have a conversation face to face, than people who are so high on their energetic horse that they're lacking oxygen. Spiritual narcissism, spiritual ego traps. Those are dangerous. To provide a lot of insight that can be used in the future, but it's also one heavy thing to swallow. Because it was like a brother. You know? But it was good to get this off my chest. Because today I've had, I called it meaningful conversation deficit. As I mentioned, the most meaningful things I've had to share today has been with people of the ages 3 to 8. That's incredible. But you don't want to share anything with people that you know are not going to understand. Because it's just going to create more friction, and you don't want that. So for me, for my sake, I end up just staying quiet. I don't say anything. And honestly, I don't think they aware. I don't think they see it. I don't think they pick it up. They're just unaware. And that's okay. Also, I think probably more than the majority of people. But when I do that, when I have all these thoughts and stories in me and I can't share them, it's like they're burning inside. And I think that's a good thing. It's like the saga has helped me to see things differently. And now when I have to get it out, I feel it so freaking in my soul that it is no problem to elevate the frequency and just get it out. And there you go. Instead of having to pay a therapist or get a pill or a diagnosis or whatever. It helps. It's natural. And I hope that it helps other people too to see other perspectives of their situations or whatever, you know? Because the more I talk about these things, the more it gets condensed. The more I teach it, the more I learn it myself. And so I get these nuggets, these quotes, these pieces of larger situations and experiences that is just condensed into value so that I don't have to keep all of it. I can archive shit. Have more room in my head so that I can focus on the real important things. But sometimes I need to get things out during the process so that I'm able to fill it up with new information and new insight and new experiences and new energy to be able to get these new results and new outcomes from whatever I am able to do once I have gotten that shit out. Not harder than that. It's not complicated. And it was good to say this. It was good to share it. It's kind of sad too, to be honest, because this is the first meaningful conversation that I've had, and it's with myself. But then again, it's not with myself, is it? So thank you for being there. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me space. Because it's so fucking important. It can literally save a life, in my opinion. Just hearing someone out. I feel lighter. Thank you for that. I will now continue my journey, my evening. And I look forward to reviewing this in the future. Because this has been a very freaking transformative, meaningful, insanely historical month. And for those who see that, goddamn. For those who don't, you're not meant to. Take care of freaking family, and I love you, face. See you in the next one.